What was banned in your school because of a crazy incident? Shaving your head for cancer. To set the scene, I went to a private all-girls school. If you had cancer and lost your hair, I guess they would allow it, but they would make you wear a school-colored bandana or a wig. A girl in our year actually had cancer and lost her hair, and she wore a bandana to school. As a show of support, this alternative girl, think Janice from Mean Girls, decided to shave her head for cancer awareness. The school was all for it. We had a fundraiser and then the actual shaving of the head at school. She then refused to immediately cover her freshly bald head and was sent home for the day. She then refused to cover her freshly bald head at all because she said it's nothing to be ashamed of, and that's kind of the point of doing it. She was suspended until she agreed to wear a bandana or a wig. Eventually, she missed so much school that her parents and the school had a big sit down, and in the end, she agreed to wear a wig. The next day, though, she turned up in the most ridiculous Florence Henderson wig I've ever seen, and it was awesome. And no one was ever allowed to shave their head for cancer again. This was in Australia, and yes, it was a Catholic school. I can't even pretend to get into the minds of people who don't want the kids to be shown with bald heads or whatever. Like, why would it ever be necessary to cover up their bald heads? I don't know how you could rationalize that. It doesn't make sense to me. Next story. They banned scarves in my high school because apparently the first-year principal got the idea in her head that only gang members wear scarves. The weirdest part was we lived in an upstate New York town that never had anything close to a gang problem. Long story short, every student protested by wearing scarves the next day. CNN caught wind of it, and my school got national attention for the first and last time. Shortly after that, the principal was fired, scarves were allowed again, and everyone stopped wearing them like usual. TLDR, principal banned scarves, got fired almost immediately after. Next story. Pokemon cards were banned at my elementary school. People complained about crappy trades and it was basically used as currency. One kid refused to comply. My teacher made him go buy a clear backpack. It was a private school, so she could apparently do that. Also, she could check his crap without having to dig through it. Funny thing is, I have no freaking idea why that kid kept bringing them when no one else in the school did. What were you doing with them, Matthew? Next story. In my elementary school, my friends used to play pretend to be addicted to drugs and addictive substances like alcohol and smoking. One student came up with the idea that Coke was a lot similar to sugar, so students started smuggling sugar around the school. Some genius ended up putting Kool-Aid mix into his, and then everyone started calling it Happy Crack. This underground kiddie drug ring ran for about 4 to 5 weeks under the school's radar until a teacher caught 2 kids making a deal. Then everyone who was involved had to sit in a giant lecture in the cafeteria and listen to the principal explain that our Happy Crack was a gateway drug and that it could ruin our lives. Next story. Holes in jeans were banned. You couldn't even have a fray, even if there wasn't a hole there in your jeans, without getting chewed out by the principal. So kids would put tape over their jeans to cover up the holes. Well, he banned putting tape over your jeans too because it's disruptive. He then banned the girls from wearing tank tops under their low-cut shirts. They did this so their cleavage wouldn't show, because apparently a tank top is an undergarment. He also banned chains on jeans, silly bands, and 2 guys were not allowed to go on a dance together, but 2 girls were. Changing the wallpapers on the computers was a no-no. Bouncy balls, bringing your own water bottles, and bringing your own coffee was out of the question. He would take your phone and go through your messages if you were caught on it in class, even if there was an emergency. There's more, but I forgot a lot of them because I graduated a couple of years ago. From what I heard, he's still finding random crap to ban to make the lives of high school kids miserable. My high school principal was, and still is, a jerk. This is definitely very specifically dating me, but silly bands were crazy in my elementary school. Absolutely nuts. I, for some reason, loved them. Spent too much money on silly bands and knockoffs thereof. Do I know where they are or even care about them at all at this point in my life? No, but kids will like things that kids like, and I don't even know why. Next story. Vending machines. Senior year, one nondescript day, I noticed the candy machine wasn't completely locked. I thought, oh well, I got my Twix, I'm good to go. A classmate was behind me and took notice that I had fiddled with the door a little and that it wasn't locked. By 9 a.m., the machine was empty. All hell broke loose. Announcement called all the seniors down to the cafeteria to condemn us for it. Catholic high school. They knew how to guilt. A couple of my classmates were blamed, the ones with stolen goods in their lockers. The rest of us didn't get to use the vending machines at our free periods for the rest of the year. I probably could have snuffed the whole issue out quick by slamming the door to the machine, but 18-year-old me didn't give a flying crap. At graduation, we all threw Hershey miniatures in memorial to the vending we lost. Next story. We had a poop smasher incident that prohibited the use of the bathroom during lunch for an entire year. One day during lunch, the accused left the cafeteria to go to the bathroom. In an attempt to impress his comrades, he then squatted down and crapped right in the middle of a styrofoam tray that had been laying on the ground. Since he believed it wasn't enough of a wow, he then took the tray and spread the contents all over the bathroom walls and the handles of the sinks. And that's how he was born. His name will forever remain in my heart. I love you, Poop Smasher. Next story. There was a brief ban on paper airplanes in 7th grade physics class. The teacher then challenged the class. If we could make 50 planes and land each one in the trash can from across the room, he would rescind it. Challenge accepted. Of course, an airplane that is crumpled into a ball and sealed with tape is still a plane. After 25 went in, he agreed that 1. I was a smart aleck, 2. The ban was rescinded, 3. I had better visit his class after graduating from engineering school. It was, and I did. Next story. In 8th grade, I was part of the first graduating class of a new school in my town. Since it was just starting out, administration was still finding its way. Because of this, as the year passed, they banned glue because of sniffing, Sharpies, ditto, and vandalizing, rubber bands, they were used to fire wasps, little pieces of paper at each other, tennis balls, chucked them at each other for some reason, walking across the cafeteria or switching tables or even walking clockwise around the cafeteria. They decided you could only walk counterclockwise around it to avoid students bumping into each other, and we had assigned seats. Next story. Winter jackets. I went to a pretty redneck high school, and those large, puffy Carhartt jackets were a staple of the redneck winter wardrobe. Well, one day some idiot in biology class decided it would be a good idea to zip his jacket all the way up over his nose, pull his arms inside it, and smoke a bowl inside his jacket in the back of class. Obviously, everyone could smell it and he got caught. The administration banned the wearing of any winter jackets in class due to the incident. Usually not a big deal, except that the school population had outgrown our tiny outdated building, so we had some of those temporary trailer classrooms. Having to sit in one of those during first period, middle of winter with no jacket, after the heat had been turned off all night, was a rare form of torture. Thanks, idiot redneck stoner kid. Edit. I agree with you all. It was totally the administration who's to blame in this situation. They just reacted without thinking it through. I will add that some teachers were very understanding and would let us put coats on in the trailer when it was brutally cold in there. Hell, it was just as cold for them too. Next story. Boxing. And I was the reason. This smart aleck kid and I got into a fight. Typical 7th grade bullcrap. In those days, they drag you down to the school gym and lace the gloves on you, making you fight in front of the entire school during lunch hour. Anyone was welcome to watch. Faculty, students, staff, whoever. So of course it always drew a crowd. The idea was that it would embarrass you both and you would stop the fighting. Wrong. I beat this kid so hard 30 plus years ago that I wouldn't be shocked if his grandkids are born with concussions. I'd knock him down and he'd get up, over and over. This went on until the hottest chick in the school, who must have been a junior or a senior, got between us and made us stop. He was still sitting on his butt trying to look up at me when the coach finally stopped it. Looking back, I can't believe they let kids fight like that. That being said, I regret nothing. Next story. No capes. I worked at a private school that required uniforms all week, but Friday was casual day. It still had a dress code, but it was very broadly defined. There was this one girl, 13-year-old goth, who kept coming to school in the most bizarre outfits she could think of while still staying within the dress code. Everything she came up with for pushing the line would inevitably end up in a revision to the dress code because she found yet another loophole. Girls could wear skirts of a certain length, so she would come in with fishnet thigh highs on. Another time it was heavy gothy black makeup. Other times it would be some bizarre hairstyle. Every time I struggled not to laugh. Finally, she came in with a vampire cape her mother sewed for her. Black on the outside, red velvet inside, wide collar. It was frickin' awesome. Between classes, she'd hold it in front of her on one arm like Bela Lugosi as she made her way to her next class. Ah, I see your school went the Edna Mode method. No capes. Next story. Pretty much everything due to the class ahead of us. On the 8th grade trip, we couldn't sit next to members of the opposite sex because some girl got touched on the bus the year before. Willingly. Then we were juniors. We couldn't have the juniors versus seniors powder puff football game because two guys from the grade ahead of us dry humped each other during their cheerleading routine the year before. war. Senior skip day was totally locked down because some guys the grade ahead of us got arrested for smoking pot. Also, we weren't allowed to be chaperones for the 8th grade trip when we were seniors because, yup, the class ahead of us were roughhousing, and some 8th grader fell off the ropes course and broke his arm. Then the senior prank was also banned because the class ahead of us decided to unleash about 50 chickens on the campus. Animal control found about 45 of them, and the remaining 5 escaped into the woods and mated. By the next year, there were something like 100 chickens. They kept breeding, and now the entire school is plagued with inbred feral chickens that keep wandering onto campus from the woods outside. So everything we were supposed to do just about every year got banned because of the class just before us, and it was the same 4 kids every time. They never got punished for it either. They were preppy jocks whose parents donated heavily to the school, so the headmistress just resorted to next year collective punishment. 13 years later, I hear that school still has inbred feral chickens. About 30-something generations of chickens, all from the same 5 that escaped. Next story. Jukebox. High school thought putting one in the cafeteria would be a good moneymaker, and for a while, it was. Kids were lining up, playing a wide variety of whatever garbage high schoolers thought was cool in 2005 and bragging about it after. Well, one day, my friend and I had enough. Our school was serving a lunch from probably 10:45 till 2, so we scraped together $60 and met at the Jukebox at the beginning of the first lunch. It's been a while, so I don't really remember the money-to-song conversion ratio. What I do know is that we had Cotton Eye Joe on repeat for the entirety of that first day, until around 1 p.m. on the second day. There was no third day. Next story. Well, when I was in high school, the administration banned the use of the term gay. Let me back up and say that I went to an all-boys school, so the use of that word was insanely rampant. Anyway, there was this kid that everyone hated, and his name was Joe. Once the word gay got banned, we began substituting it with Joe. Instead of saying stuff like, "Dude, you're so gay," we would say, "Dude, you're so Joe." Well, after a couple of weeks of this, the administration banned the use of the word Joe, until they realized they stripped the poor kid of his own name. They reversed their decision a couple of days later. That was fun. Next story. When I was in high school, they stopped serving bags of chips and sodas because of health stuff. But one of the teachers started a secret pseudo-black market where you could buy sodas and chips from her in her classroom as long as you hid them on the way out, pretending you got them from home. All the profits she made were donated to the school's art program, so it was actually really benefiting the school, but it got banned as more and more kids walked out of her room with Cokes and potato chips in their hands. Luckily, she's the type of person who can talk her way out of trouble, so she didn't get fired. Next story. Oh man, me and my friends got a lot of things banned over time. First would probably be 6th grade. Axe spray was banned for pretty obvious reasons. 7th grade, one day a kid brought a vial of glitter to school and enjoyed dousing people with it. This started a full-fledged war. By the next week, literally every boy in our school had glitter of some sort and brought it with them. The first big incident that got some people in school suspension was during a pep rally for our middle school football team. The pep rally was at the end of the day, and in our first class of the day, I had convinced a few of my friends to sit on the side of the bleachers where the football team would come in from when the principal started the rally. By this time, pep rallies were happening every few weeks, so we pretty much knew the drill. Turns out my friends told some friends, and that crap spread like wildfire. When the rally began, most of the kids were sitting on one side of the bleachers in the gym, one of those indoor gymnasiums US schools have, and the other side was completely empty. The speaker told us all to distribute more evenly, and reluctantly we did. Even at that age, I was aware when something was about to go completely horrible. So noticing that far more people were into the idea of dumping glitter on the football team, I moved to the previously empty side of the bleachers as to distance myself from the ruckus, and suggested my best friends follow me. They complied, and we all watched from a distance. As soon as the doors opened and we heard the crunch of cleats on tile, there were arms outstretched and glitter in the air. The entire side of the gym was sparkling in a vast array of sticky, shiny snow, as the metaphorical flakes descended on the unassuming victims below. Before all of it could even find a home in a kid's hair or on the floor, the principal and his aides were rounding up kids that they saw throwing glitter. Probably like 10 kids got in-school suspension that day, and there were 3 or 4 more incidents that followed before the school completely banned glitter. This, of course, made the football players glitter people back in revenge, and started an all-out war. And now one more. This one happened in 8th grade. Now that I think about it, I got something banned each year in middle school. Kind of an accomplishment. So yeah, 8th grade, same school. So there was this kid, pretty normal dude, a little bit of a class clown, but nothing crazy. He brought Smarties to class one day, which, if you don't know, are little chalky candies that come in a plastic roll, and he wanted to show us all something he discovered. So he breaks out a pack of Smarties, breaks them up until all the Smarties are sitting in a little mound of powder before him, then he snorts some of it. We were all amazed, like, "What the hell are you doing?" kind of amazed. And he said that it makes your spit taste sweet for the next hour or two. I wrote him off as simply insane and went about my life normal for the next few weeks. Suddenly, freaking everybody is snorting this crap. Like seriously, a crapload of 12 and 13-year-old kids are buying Smarties and snorting them. It was freaking nuts. At lunch, in classes where the teachers didn't care, in the bathroom, these kids were freaking junkies for the stuff. Of course, I tried it once, and it definitely did what everyone said it did, but I felt like I was the only person who understood you should probably not put candy up your nose. A week or so after that, the hype was sort of dying down about snorting Smarties, and people were wising up that it's probably something you shouldn't do. It was around this time that I went to the store with my mom and saw a massive bag of Smarties for like $2. I thought, wow. If people were still doing that crap, I could make an absolute fortune selling this stuff. But like I said, people were stopping. So I had to make it cool again. Me and one of my best friends at the time, we'll call him Shane in case I use his name further on, started thinking. So obviously this is an emulation of drugs. People are snorting this crap because it's cool and it has a mild sweet effect in your throat. So what other drugs do people do that are cool? Well, weed and cigarettes, of course. So we reinvented the freaking game. Me and Shane would crush up Smarties in the plastic wrapper they came in, fold it up, and suck gently at one end while the powder floated into our lungs and the back of our throats. This method was the crap because it achieved the same taste as the first method, just without having to actually snort something. And because when you exhale, it looks like a cloud of smoke. Kids ate this crap up. And the next thing you know, in every class, you're seeing people crushing up Smarties. Once it had caught on, me and Shane both bought big 2-pound bags of Smarties for like $2 to $3, and were selling individual Smarties wraps for 25 cents. In the short month or two that we were doing this, I earned about $200 profit after re-upping a couple times. We even had some kids below us who we would sell the large bags to for $10 so they could resell it, all at the typical 25-cent rate, and still make a profit. One of these kids was the dude who snorted the first Smartie. The only reason we were able to get away with this was because Shane's big brother was in high school and would take us to the grocery store to buy the crap. Otherwise, our parents would have realized we obviously weren't eating that many Smarties. Anyway, crap got hot and kids got messy. Started getting caught smoking the Smarties and a few got caught snorting it. The staff of the school started asking questions and me and Shane immediately dropped it. However, the kid who snorted the first Smartie ratted on us when it got to him, and we both said we knew it was going on, but we never took part in any way. Both separately said that the kid who snorted the first Smartie was the big dealer in the school and he was caught with 2 bags in his locker. Kid got out of school suspension for a maximum of 10 days, and the school banned Smarties. Me and Shane don't talk much these days. In fact, I haven't seen him since he went to college. But if you're out there, man, thanks for broing it up with me in those days. You were the bomb. Next story. At my high school, a kid, we'll call him Mikey, attempted the gallon challenge during lunch. Our cafeteria, however, only sold the dinky half-pint milk cartons. So Mikey buys as many milks as the lunch lady will allow without getting suspicious, and is given the rest to him by eagerly watching classmates. There he sat with 16 half-pint milk cartons before him, and he started chugging. This obviously caused a ruckus, as teens were gathering around a single table chanting, "Chug, chug, chug, chug!" Teachers got involved and forced him to stop drinking. He was suspended for 3 days. The next day, 2 of Mikey's close friends had made up Free Mikey t-shirts that they flaunted for the whole school and administration to see. The next day, about 30 kids had Free Mikey t-shirts on, and it became a movement, a united affront to the administration. But the administration didn't take any of our crap and outlawed the Free Mikey t-shirts, and anyone who was caught wearing one was forced to change into their gym clothes or receive detention. Next story. Milk. This may sound weird, but no, totally true story. Last year I had an 8th period, end of the day philosophy class with a relatively emotional teacher who loved the class but got frustrated at how off topic we got ourselves. This happened almost every day, and one thing that she would often do to calm herself was drink tea. Being that she was drinking beverages other than water, I asked if students could do so as well, and she said we could drink anything that wasn't an adult beverage. So naturally, me and my craphead friends decided we would each get half a gallon of whole milk and keep it in a refrigerator in the cafeteria until class began, and then race to see who could finish it first. Anyone who finished would be dubbed a milkman. in hopes that this would become a school tradition. I won and finished with time to spare. However, one of my friends almost threw up and she wound up crying because she couldn't control us and realized her life was out of her own hands. Nowadays, she is banned speaking of dairy products of any kind in her class, and no milk is allowed out of the cafeteria. Next story. A kid's last name. We were literally not allowed to say his last name. It was Fonts, and he was a D-bag. It also doesn't help that his last name started with an F and only had one syllable, so Fonts became our frack. Like the truly versatile F word it replaced, it could be properly used as a noun, verb, adjective, adverb, predicate, or simply an explanation. For instance, what the fonts? I'm gonna fonts you up. Fonts me. Fonts the fontsing fontsers. That dude is fontsed. You're fontsed in the head. The versatility even took it past its origin. Put next in the last square and fonts is your uncle. A bit obscure, but my personal favorite. I think the Fonts family had a bit of a breakdown. They all got fontsing mad, and their last name was top of the no dirty word list. Best fonts in year of high school ever. Next story. This is a bit of a story, so stick with me. We were banned from using the bathroom during all school assemblies. This is principally my fault for popularizing the game hide and go poop. For those of you unfamiliar, participants must text all other participants of the game whenever they take a dump. The other players must race around the school trying to locate the stall in which the person is pooping and tag them by throwing a wet wadded up paper towel on him over the stall door. Points for tags are accumulated, and if you're not tagged and successfully poop without being disturbed, you get a point. It gets very competitive. If you've never played, I highly recommend this game to all young men and ladies, of course. At my high school, it started out with a small group of friends, and over the course of a few weeks, it spread to almost every male member of my class, well over 100 kids. I developed a technique for surefire success: poop during an all-school assembly. I thought everyone would be too noticeable, all checking their phones, seeing my text, and running out of the amphitheater together. I was wrong. No shame. A group of 100-plus 16-year-old boys tore out of that assembly like it was summer break, and I was soon pelted by a hefty pile of wet, wadded-up paper towels. Thus, the game was discovered by the administration and discontinued. I mourn its loss to this day. Next story. At my school, we used to have a particular teacher that would fling open the doors to study rooms to catch us doing whatever teenagers do. Smoking, listening to loud music on hi-fi brought from home, generally just not what we were supposed to do. One day we unscrewed the door hinges and put it back in place. These were heavy old wooden doors that took 3 of us to maneuver in place. So we crank up some drum and bass, 90s kids remember, and get out of the way in this tiny room all sat in a line so the door won't hit one of us. 2 minutes later, Mr. Thompson starts to fling open the door. It's so heavy it's basically hinged at the floor now, and he doesn't realize quick enough, just holds onto the door handle while still shouting. He goes down with the door with a massive crash, taking out the back of a chair that we didn't move, causing more noise and damage. He stands up and goes ballistic. None of us can breathe. We're all laughing so hard. He's so mad and embarrassed, and he storms off saying he'll be speaking to us later. The following day, we arrive to our long corridor of study rooms to find the doors are all gone. Every single one removed. We get in and are told that if you aren't responsible enough to have doors, you can't have any. Again, we all laugh at the situation so much that at this point proving exercise becomes a real thing, and for 2 more years the doors are left removed. And that's the story of how we got doors banned at our school. Next story. Muckup Day got banned. Essentially, Muckup Day is a day for Year 12s to let off some steam before the exam period and is mostly harmless fun. Cross-dressing, putting frogs in fountains, food fights, whatever. A few people over the years took it too seriously and did crazy stuff, such as vandalizing cars and dressing up as terrorists in 2001. So it got banned at our school. Other schools allowed it with rules to prevent anything too crazy, and their students were happy to oblige. Our school had a 0 tolerance, and anything at all would get you expelled and unable to sit exams at the school, which pretty much led to the mentality that if I'm going to get expelled, I might as well do something crazy, which has led to some serious car damage in the past. Everyone still did something, but 5 usually get caught each year. Next story. This will probably get lost, but teachers are banned from speaking out against school committee decisions. When 9/11 happened, our high school was ordered to turn off all TVs, buses were not allowed to play the radio, and teacher and pupils were forbidden to speak about the events that day. My honors history teacher was in Boston that day. When he came back and heard about how 9/11 was being censored, he started berating the decision to his advanced placement history class. He did the same thing to our honors class. Someone from his first period AP told on him and he got fired by noon. Almost. He decided to teach his honors and regular history classes about US involvement in the Middle East for about 2 weeks. He made his AP class to do bookwork without saying anything to them. He ended his 2-week silence with a class about the effects of censorship and extreme nationalism. Next story. Spongebob. In my middle school, several of the buses got to school 20 to 30 minutes early, and those students stayed in the gym until enough teachers were there that they could go to their homeroom. One day, a few black girls brought homemade Spongebob and other cartoon character blankets because the gym was cold in the morning. They got loud, and a nutjob racist teacher decided the blankets were in gang colors, and by second hour it was announced that SpongeBob was banned starting the next day. Anyone wearing SpongeBob clothing would be suspended. By lunch, my grade had decided everyone was buying and wearing nothing but SpongeBob gear. People were painting faces with makeup and printing and posting up pictures. Our theory was they can't suspend the entire 9th grade. By the last class of the day, it had become such an uproar they announced that the next day, Friday before Spirit Week, was going to be SpongeBob Day to kick off the week, and there was a 5-foot plush SpongeBob in the main office window. The principal and the counselor resigned at the end of that semester. TLDR, SpongeBob got banned for gang relations. Then the next day was declared SpongeBob Day. Okay, I was wondering why OP mentioned that the girls were black. That makes a lot of sense. Definitely pertinent to the story. Those implicit racial biases go crazy, especially depending on where you live. It's always nice to hear the students all rallying together for a good cause. Keep SpongeBob in schools. Next story. Eyeliner. When I was a senior in high school, my best friend Greg came to school in those big baggy trip pants with the chains all over them and a Slipknot t-shirt. My little brother's best friend came in wearing almost the exact same outfit. I made fun of them and playfully asked if they wanted some dramatic eyeliner to go with the look. They went along with it, and I really made it over the top, dragging the pencil down their faces to look like they were crying. You know, we were stupid teenage kids. It was all in good fun. At the time, I went to a culinary academy in another school for the second half of the day, so I didn't hear about it until later that night. But apparently the teenage gossip rumor mill went from, ew, look at those goths, to, they look like they're in a gang, to, they're going to shoot up the school, call the police. So the police take them in for questioning. Everybody's freaking out about the school shooters and how it's the next Columbine, all because they were wearing eyeliner. After that day, eyeliner was banned because stupid teenage girls like to jump to conclusions. The day after, I went to the vice principal and raised hell, telling him that I was the one to do the eyeliner, and this whole thing was stupid and a complete waste of time. Afterwards, a girl who overheard me confronted me in the hallway and asked me, well, you grew up in a not-so-nice area. Was there any way those markings on the boys' faces were a gang symbol? Like those teardrops under the gangsters' eyes? My mind literally could not process the ignorance. I mean, really. Freaking eyeliner. Next story. I went to a strict high school where your socks had to be a standard height, your belt must not be too loose, your earrings cannot exceed 0.1 centimeter for studs or 0.5 centimeter for hoops, hair must always be tied up or pushed off your face with clips/hairbands that can only be black in color, watches cannot exceed 5 centimeters in diameter, cell phones are banned. Not really sure what crazy incident prompted all of that. I'd like to think it was some girl going on a rampage using her super long belt as a lasso, jabbing people to death with earrings, clobbering people with her super huge watch, causing epileptic seizures with a hairband that emits flashing lights, using her thigh-high socks to restrain people. Oh, and using the cell phone to make really annoying loud phone calls. Next story. Short backstory. I went to an almost entirely black public school in LA. In 3rd grade, the movie The Cheetah Girls came out, and every girl at school was freaking out about it. Every other Friday, we had free dress where we didn't have to wear our school uniforms. So the week after the Cheetah Girls came out, a small group of girls decided they were all going to wear cheetah print clothing that Friday because they wanted to embody the 4 characters from the show. Well, it just so happened that a few other girls had the same idea and also wore cheetah print clothing. When these various girls asked to be part of the main group of the Cheetah Girls, they were immediately rejected. A few girls even called their moms asking to bring more cheetah print clothing to increase their chances of getting into the group. What a day. There was so much fighting and yelling amongst almost every girl in my grade. Even the girls who didn't originally want to be part of the Cheetah Girls wanted to be in this exclusive club. You can't be a cheetah girl, was shouted over 100 times that day. At the end of the day, I think about a dozen girls were suspended and we had an entire school discussion on the following Monday. Even us boys who had no idea what the hell was going on because we were too busy focusing on Kingdom Hearts and throwing paper airplanes had to attend. No girl was allowed to wear cheetah print clothing for the rest of the school year. That was 11 years ago, and I still don't fully understand what the hell went down that Friday. Next story. At my school, I had a friend who brought an entire bottle of ghost pepper chili sauce. He let me try some with a small dab of it on a toothpick. I tried it and it burned pretty bad in my mouth. Later on in the day, my friend is in the middle of class and his teacher tells him to throw away the bottle of the sauce. My friend then chugs the entire bottle down. All of it. Later on in the day, he felt sick and threw up, and he got stuck inside the nurse's office. The school then banned hot sauce from the school, labeling it as a weapon. Next story. Here's a list of stuff that's been banned in my tenure of high school. 1. Pokemon cards and Magic the Gathering. School thought it was for gambling and gang-related. A lot of students had their cards confiscated. You weren't allowed to get them, and the principal insisted they were gang-related still. 2. Wearing all black. Sucked for the goth kids. School felt it was gang-related. 3. Goth kids. Gang-related, and in the wake of Columbine. 4. Any group that had more than 6 people eating in the cafeteria. Gang-related. Was part of a large group of friends, about 18 of us. We all congregate and school thought we were a gang. 5. Loose change. Had an ongoing incident where we played a game with the chemistry teacher who was a mean, bald-headed Grinch. The game was to throw loose change at his head while you passed his classroom. He was being pelted about 10 to 15 times a day. The last straw was when he dodged a quarter and twisted his ankle when he fell off the elevated teaching platform. What is with schools and their obsessions with gangs? You think splitting the kids up at lunch will, stop gang activity? Get real, dude. I don't understand. Do people actually think, do the administrators really, truly believe that banning certain colors and keeping people apart at lunch will stop gangs? Yeah, no, sorry. It's a nice idea, but the problems run a little deeper than that. Next story. Rugby. Our school never played rugby, had no history of ever having played rugby, had no rugby goals, and no members of staff qualified to teach rugby. However, one day, we in year 10 decided that we wished to play rugby. The only people in school who were even remotely up for this apart from us were the year 11 boys, and it was immediately apparent it was going to be an unofficial event, played at lunchtime. There would be no oversight, no referee, no higher authority to appeal to. Scores would be settled, stolen girlfriends revenged, school disco humiliations reprised. This would be bullying elevated to art, wrapped in the mask of sport. This was going to be blood sport. This was going to be warfare. The date was set, 1 week from today. Word spread. It quickly became apparent as the day approached that the game was vastly oversubscribed. The weekend passed and the town filled with rumors that the school was going to step in and prevent the game from being played. That Friday, the town had the air of Europe on the eve of the invasion of Poland, as the rival teams gathered at each end of the park, drinking Diamond White and yelling abuse at one another. The tension continued to mount. By Monday, there was talk of parents trying to get the day off work to come watch. Isolated fights were breaking out in corridors and stairwells. There was no way such a vast event could escape the attention of the authorities. And on Tuesday, the nominal captains of the side were summoned to the big man's office to be told the game could go ahead, but it would be attended by staff, some of whom were now said to be betting on the outcome. The day arrived and passed without incident, as people focused their efforts on the lunchtime fixture. The teams took the field, and it was evident this was going to be unlike any game of rugby ever played anywhere before. There were close to 60 boys on the pitch, each year having sought refuge in numbers and recruiting every nerd and spod, every geek and freak, and every Solomon they could find in search of securing the win. A ball was produced and was booted high into the air, just as the staff arrived to try and prevent what was now clearly going to be a massacre. The head teacher, usually a calm, considerate man, was running onto the pitch screaming, "Stop!" But it was too late. 60 lads, none of whom had more than a passing acquaintance with the rules of the game, were now sprinting full tilt towards each other. And we were screaming, not the yell of the challenge or the bellow of the haka, but screaming like the vengeful gods of old. The sky tore asunder under the fury of our rage. The redmost had descended, and there had to be blood. The teams met, teeth flew, shoulders popped from sockets, shin bones splintered, ribs cracked. The fury of the sprint now exhausted in a moment of pure carnage. The head reached the front line of the chaos and most uncharacteristically screamed, "Game freaking over!" Our dalliance with rugby lasted 8 seconds. 10 children required hospital attention. OP has quite the way with words. I just hope I did it justice, to be honest. That was Incredible, OP. Thank you for that. We could just end it here, but we won't. Next story. Boomerangs. No, it wasn't Australia. Someone got their teeth knocked out by one, so they banned them. I made a functional boomerang out of cardboard and glue, which worked amazingly well, and was playing with it on the field until the headmaster came to confiscate it. He broke it in two and started walking away, and hey, I had another one. So I said, "Please let me show you it's harmless," and threw it at a classmate. I missed into the wind, and the damn thing curved up high like never before and was vertically on top of us. The headmaster freaked out, covered his head, and ducked. No one else seemed worried, and it fell harmlessly a few yards away. He took that one too and broke it. Never seen someone so scared of boomerangs. He must have been attacked in Australia or something. Next story. Okay, I have a lot of these. Water bottles. Popping them and making water rain down in the lunchroom. Lunchroom bathroom. I flooded it, and no one knows. Having more than 7 seats at a table. We all had the students in the room surround one table and did some weird crap. Tank tops. Bringing food outside. Concoction explosion of 2012 covering 13 students. Scissors. Shanks. Running upstairs. Kid almost died from falling a flight and a half. Crossing the street without a crossing guard. Again, kid almost died. Chewing gum. Kid choked on a wad of 60 pieces of gum. That's all I got for the moment. Next story. Bouncy balls. A bunch of us pitched in and purchased 2,000 bouncy balls, $200, during our annual prank week that usually ended by Wednesday after the police got involved. Our school was built like a giant square, so we divvied them up and had 4 kids at the 4 corners throw them down each hallway. Crap got out of hand real quick. No major injuries, and the only person who got in trouble was legitimately the nicest kid in the world. Mission trips to Africa, Bible studies, NHS, all that crap. Just happened to pick up one of the balls as the principal was walking up behind him. Next story. Surprisingly, my school had a zero tolerance policy for cheeky t-shirts. I posted on here already about my friend Mikey and his supportive t-shirts. Another t-shirt that got banned at my high school was one that made fun of our rival high school, Oakton. Oakton High School had the initials OHS. So, some genius in my year made shirts that said Oakton Blows, spelled BLOHS. These were quickly made and distributed amongst our class so we could wear them all day at school on the day of the homecoming game against our rivals, and to the game that night. However, the administration got wind of the t-shirts and decided they were not acceptable. Anyone wearing one had to put masking tape over the word blows or change shirts. Next story. I'm a bit late to this, but when I was a freshman, our private high school had a senior lounge. This was a place where only seniors could go. Those that weren't got their butt kicked for entering. Supposedly, there were video games and hookers in the senior lounge, but this was just a myth. Anyway, there was this annual event called the Senior Sleepover where all the seniors would spend the night at the school. This was cool back in the 90s. The auditorium was usually off limits, but this year the seniors convinced the faculty to allow it to remain open. Open it was, and instead of playing a National Lampoon's movie, they played some adult content. Not only that, they were intending to, and did, self-pleasure over the seats of the people they didn't like. Our auditorium hosted morning assemblies and seats were assigned. The staff walked in mid-group self-pleasuring session and suspended a bunch of the seniors, about 14 or so. As a result, the senior lounge was permanently abolished. Screw you, university school, class of 97. Next story. The junior high school I went to banned boys from wearing skirts. It started when a group of boys were sent home from school for wearing shorts, which were banned. These were the knee-length, baggy, brightly colored Jamaica Jams, which were popular at the time. The principal even held an unscheduled school assembly to tell all 700 kids that shorts were banned. The shorts were longer than the micro-skirts that a lot of the girls had been wearing in school. So to point out the double standard, the boys who'd been sent home returned the next day wearing micro-skirts borrowed from female students. The principal completely flipped his crap and suspended everyone involved. After his blood pressure returned to normal, the suspensions were lifted, shorts were unbanned, shorts and skirts that didn't reach a certain length of the knee were banned, and boys were thenceforth banned from wearing skirts or dresses to school ever again. Thus ended the microskirt rebellion of '86. A victory for boys who wanted to wear shorts, but a crushing defeat for cross-dressers, and for those of us who liked it when girls wore microskirts to school. Next story. After a kid in my grade in high school was suspended for a beer can picture on Facebook, a different kid found our principal's Match.com profile. It was full of suggestive content, and one of the quotes suggested the use of a wet white t-shirt. He then printed and distributed it at a pep rally. He was found out and suspended. The student body had the attitude of, if you can persecute us for our online lives, So can we. The student body then created White T-shirt Wednesday to protest the suspension of the individuals punished. After 2 weeks, no one was allowed to wear a white T-shirt. Next story. Our crappy school district hired a new principal my sophomore year after the other one retired. This particular principal had a charge for domestic violence against his wife the summer prior to the new school year, and being a small town, everyone knew. It was pretty much forbidden for us to discuss it. Didn't stop students from yelling, "Principal beats his wife!" at every assembly. One kid somehow went over the school-wide speaker system and did a rap about the principal beating his wife and how much of a creeper he was in the middle of the day. It caused chaos. I don't feel sorry for him because he was a jerk. The district should have never hired him in the first place because he used to creep on the girls. Hey, to be honest, I just don't think someone with a domestic violence rap should be a principal at a school at all. I just feel like there are some issues there that are not conducive to being good at the job. That's all. I think everything these kids did was completely justified. Next story. In my junior school, in America I think that's middle school, I was 9, girls were banned from wearing trousers. We wore a uniform because they weren't feminine. So me, being a fearless 9-year-old, started a petition to get girls to be able to wear trousers because in England, it's so damn cold in the winter. I got so many signatures and even the teachers signed it, but I got in trouble with my class teacher for trying to get the kids to rebel and I was sent home. My parents were proud that I stood up for something, and the next year after I left, the school introduced trousers. Hooray! I never got to wear them, but my sisters went to the same school and they did, so it's a small victory. Next story. Thong panties. For the record, this wasn't at my school, but it was one nearby. This happened in a school in Portland, or somewhere just outside of Portland, back in 99 or 2000. The principal decided that schoolgirls wearing thongs were a distraction to the students, and decided to make it a dress code violation. Lots of debate over it, and how he could tell if women were even wearing a thong. The term visible panty line got thrown around a lot. No clue what happened, but I thought it was bat crap crazy when they allowed kids to come to school in pajamas, but somehow thongs were off limit. I understand that, different environments would command different levels of dress. But at the same time, if you are that worried about underwear on the children at your school, I'm a little suspicious of you. That's all I'm saying. Check his hard drive. Seriously, though, it's like a kind of outdated ideal system in my mind. And obviously, I don't know what people were wearing, but as long as it wasn't egregious, I think it's fine. Kids are kids. They're still figuring out how to express themselves through clothing and everything, really. Let them try some stuff. Some stuff will stick, and a lot of it won't, as long as they're not hurting anyone. Next story. Flannel shirts. Columbine had just happened, and one of the dumb guys I hung out with in the library before school made a crack about the fact that most of us wore flannel shirts, and thus dubbed us the Flannel Mafia. Halfway through first period, I get hauled into the principal's office and have to explain what my dumb friend had said, and assure them that the flannel shirts everyone wore was just because it was cold. We had no real fashion sense. Flannel shirts were banned for the rest of the year just to be safe, I guess. Next story. There's a sign in the doorway of all gyms at my old school that read, "No mechanical noise-making devices." Story. When I was a senior, a group of my friends and I hooked a car horn up to a set of batteries and a household light switch. We would bring it to basketball games and blast it as the other team shot. They got used to it, so we started only doing it sometimes so they would be anxious about whether or not it would go off. Since we were in the front of the student section and put the horn in my backpack, we weren't thrown out until halftime. Next story. Spice Girl stickers. The ones that came with the lollipops. I think it was my fault. I was in 2nd grade and I only needed one more to complete the collection of 40 stickers. Then someone stole my sticker book. I cried so hard and wrote a letter to the teacher telling her my parents were going to hit me if I didn't bring them home because they were expensive. They cost 30 cents a pop. Clearly I was lying, but I wanted to be dramatic to get them back. Never got them back. Screw whoever stole them. And yes, the teacher called my home and I got in trouble. Spice Girls stickers were banned after that. Next story. So my high school banned zip ties because apparently I went to school with psychopaths. It started out that kids would flip people's backpacks inside out and then zip tie them shut, which isn't too bad, but it got the administration wary of them. Then over summer school one year, this kid fell asleep in class. He had those gauges in his ear that you could pass a quarter through, so this Ted Bundy in training sneaks up to him real quiet like and puts a zip tie through the gauge, tied it around the metal bar on the desk, and then slammed his hand down on the desk. Gage Kid shoots up real quick and loses an earlobe in the process. Psycho gets expelled, and from then on, if anyone was found with zip ties on them, they're suspended and subject to expulsion. Next story. This will probably never be seen, but I want to tell it anyway. At Rutgers, there were these food trucks called the grease trucks. They had sandwiches called fat sandwiches. These sandwiches had some non-PC names. Fat Indian, Fat Female Dog, etc. Some more PC-inclined students campaigned to have these names changed or have these trucks banned from campus. Can't remember if they were successful. In response to this, the conservative kids' newspaper went to the school board as a joke, saying, Lucky Charms must be banned from the cafeterias because they were offensive. They were successful. I found it hilarious. Next story. Hornets. You don't know what a hornet is? Bless your little freaking heart. Lots of blood was shed in the Hornet Wars of the 90s. See, listen here, boy. And when I call you boy, I mean no disrespect. It's just that I think you soft like puppy crap. Your jaw'd break eating a soup sandwich. You get my point? A real man fold you up like a lawn chair after a parade. You bleed freaking cotton candy, and I'm sure all the ladies love you because you're sweet as hell. All that aside, I'm talking hornets. They were just a nuisance at first. Something the prowling crapheads did to juniors or the unaware. These guys would find a rubber band and then get a piece of paper, fold it up so many times till it was thick in the shape of a wedge or an arrow tip. Then these freaking modern-day Apache warriors would shoot these freaking things at you or get really close and snap you with them. It would sting and leave a large lump, like a hornet sting. As time went on, these kids adapted. They used thicker rubber bands, bigger paper wads. The stoners got too high and started making sheet metal projectiles. A hornet hit would now always result in blood. When and where was anyone's guess. It was chaos, blood, hell, math, gym, trenches, sweat, and freaking tears. Then they were banned and vanished from the halls like a ghostly visage of what once was. I'll never forget. It was like a mother freaking Vietnam. Next story. Mickey Mouse. The fascist, racist principal decided the only way she could combat the extremely non-threatening gang problem was to start banning anything and everything the people she assumed were in gangs were wearing. Many of the Hispanics in our school wore Mickey Mouse clothing. Principal assumed it was gang-affiliated. Boom! No more Mickey Mouse anything. Not that I care that much about Mickey Mouse, but the absurdity of it is what got me. The principal drove herself crazy banning the dumbest crap imaginable. I think once she really got into it, the Hispanics started actually forming gangs and wearing ridiculous crap just to screw with her. Narrator's commentary. Yes, racist principal. Ban the Mickey Mouse. That will definitely stop the minorities from making gangs. That will definitely stop gang violence and lowering property prices or whatever you're worried about. Next story. I was in the first grade and we had a full week of school dedicated to bus safety. We went through all the safety lessons and we had a sweet fake school bus that some teachers had made. It was in the back of the room and it could seat 8 to 10 kids. I can't really remember why I did what I did, but the teachers had a live fire extinguisher inside of the bus. Some kid could have dared me to do it, or someone, maybe one of the kids, had screamed fire jokingly. But, I pulled that pin and blasted that crap everywhere. It filled the room pretty quick, and we all got evacuated and had recess for a long time while the room cleared out. No one got seriously hurt except for people coughing a lot. Whatever. If I'm on a bus and it catches fire, I'm the guy you want on that bus. Next story. Sporks were banned for a while, but when they realized the game we were playing also worked, not as well however with spoons, they just gave out assigned seats for a week whenever someone tried to play it. So the game was this. You bend the spork about an inch back from the end of the handle pointing down, and you hold it on the spork end, and then use your other hand to grab the handle and pull it back. You then release it so it snaps down onto your opponent's spork. The goal is to break the entire spork end off. The main reason it got banned was because after it started getting popular, people started getting hit by exploding spork shrapnel, and idiots were leaving broken sporks laying all over the place. Plus, everyone who played would grab like 3 or 4 sporks every day at lunch when we played. So I'd imagine they were burning through sporks a lot faster than normal. Next story. Mercury. Agua Fria High School a few years ago, some kids stole mercury from the science lab and put it in a water bottle for people to play with. Someone caught wind and reported it, and eventually the EPA got involved. For whatever reason, they flipped crap and everything in the school that came in contact with the mercury was torn out and destroyed. Anyone who had contact with it had to give them their clothes to be destroyed. How you washed your clothes? We'll need the entire load, the washer and dryer. Oh, it looks like there's a trace amount in your home. Yeah, stay in a hotel while we clean this up. What? us pay for your hotel, clothes, or washer and dryer? You're crazy. So some people only had one pair of clothes to wear and had to live in a hotel for about a week's time while they got cleaned up. I got 3 days off school though, so that was nice. I think all in all, they said it caused $1 million worth of damage. Next story, rubber bands. The whole shooting paper hornets with rubber bands was huge at my school. Everyone, and I mean everyone, had a Ziploc bag with like a dozen rubber bands and enough paper hornets to fight a day-long battle on them all the time. A teacher turns to write something on the board and thwack, 9 different people just got shot. This went on for way longer than I thought it would. It ended when a new girl was mercilessly targeted on her first day. I think it was a combination of her not having a weapon of her own to shoot back, and that lazy eye magnified through Coke bottle-thick glasses. Anyway, she ended up crying and going to the principal or someone over it, and the next day they made it a rule that no one could have rubber bands. Honestly, I don't blame her for that reaction, though. It's hard enough being the new person. You gotta know the lazy eye and thick glasses didn't help, and the bombardment she took was actually impressive. I'm surprised it took her that long to break down. Next story, Halloween costumes. Because of the greatest Halloween costume ever. My freshman year of high school, Halloween fell on a weekday, and the school encouraged kids to dress up and make the school festive. So 7:30 rolls around and they open up the gate. Everyone comes streaming in. Pretty standard fare for the most part, witches, vampires, the normal, except for one guy. This one guy comes into school in shorts and a tank top carrying a big box. He beelines it right for the bathroom and disappears into one of the stalls. Couple minutes later, he walks out in a giant Thong costume, just strolling through the quad. Everyone starts laughing and cheering and applauding, and the dude takes a bow. All of a sudden, from towards the offices, 2 of our security guards come towards him telling him he has to take it off. Naturally, like any good teenager, he decides to book it. He takes off at full speed, well, as full as those balls on his feet would allow. Leads security on a short chase around some lunch tables and back towards the quad before he's caught and tackled to the ground. He ended up suspended for a couple of days. Costumes were officially banned after that. Next story. Skirts were banned on guys at my high school. Basically, during the homecoming week, seniors would be auctioned off to lower classmen. They would have to wear what they were told, do what they were told, and walk them from class to class. Well, my buddy got auctioned off to some girls who thought it would be great for him to wear a skirt, which is fine. This guy's crazy to begin with. He decided to freeball it under the skirt. Well, they had him doing cartwheels down the packed hallway in between classes, dong and balls flapping in the wind for all to see, including the principal. I do not know where these guys get their courage. I wouldn't be caught dead freeballing in a skirt at school. Is it courage or stupidity? Maybe just the lack of caring? It could be a lot of things, I guess, but whatever it is, I did not have it. Next story. The term dude bro. I wish I was kidding. I'm unsure as to how, but the school administrators got word that there was a big drug dealer at the school that we all called a dude bro. There was no such man, much to our amusement. When walking through the halls, we would say dude bro in a nonsense sentence and just watch every teacher and faculty member's head lock in on you. One of our group even got called into the office to discuss his affiliation with the dude bro. I couldn't believe that the people running our school were so freaking dense. Next story. Not so much a ban, but my high school made it mandatory for all students to wear lanyards around their neck with their student ID visible. If you forgot yours for the day, you had to go to the office and rent one for $1. If it wasn't displayed properly, automatic detention. Supposedly, it all started because kids from a rival football team were coming into the school looking to fight with our players. But no one I knew, which included just about the entire school, had ever heard of such a thing happening. It was a way for them to make money off of lost and forgotten IDs. Next story. So this happened when I was in grade 11. We got tents, of all things, banned from the school. Me and my friends didn't like the sports day our school put on every year because it's mandatory and pretty much everything is banned. Phones, music, costumes, fun, etc. Unless you participate in an event that only allows 20 participants at a time. So there were a lot of people just sitting around doing nothing because either they didn't want to be there at all or all the events were full. The principal makes threats every year to follow up on all absent students, but I don't think she ever realized that we all knew she couldn't follow up on 300 plus absences, and she never did. So I usually just never went because screw that crap. But then, the day before it, my friend said he had an 8-person tent, and a plan started forming. So the next day we came in and set up the tent in the corner of the oval as quick as we could and played D&D to give a middle finger to the sports day rules. A few other people heard we were doing it, and there were like 5 other tents almost as big as ours, all doing their own thing. So the next week the principal was speaking at assembly and had this look of, "Why this?" on her face. She announced that students had been banned from bringing tents to school. The thing is, it actually got worse next year because teachers went full-on fun police on us. Didn't go. Principal didn't follow up on me or anyone else because she was still full of crap. Oh, also, MTG got banned pretty much entirely because people were having fun in the card room, and that bothered the librarian from hell. So she reacted like always and removed it from her presence so it wouldn't offend her anymore. Next story. Anything other than standard blue and black Bic pens. We had a pen ring. Kids would bring their parents extremely nice pens. Kids would use any money they had to buy pens. Kids had reserves of pens hidden around the school. Pencil cases stuffed with 20 to 30 pens hidden all over the place. Pens were currency. The more you had and the higher quality of your pens, the higher status you held in the grade. It wasn't just one group of kids either. Of the 70-ish kids in our 5th grade class, somewhere between 40 and 50 were involved. One bleak day, an enormous bust took place. The 5th grade teachers spent the better part of 4 full class periods, half the day, questioning people, confiscating pens, and issuing demerits/detentions. They confiscated something like 1,500 pens between the 40 and 50 or so people in the market. Literally desks full. A few ringleaders had close to 100 nice pens in their possession at the time of the bust. Teachers left only blue and black Bic pens. Next story. Universal remote controls. Some kid in high school started to turn on and off the TVs we had in every classroom. If he walked past or was in a class, usually around 10 a.m., that was watching a documentary, the TV would randomly switch to Jerry Springer and the class would erupt in laughter. The same kid also figured out how to gain administrator access to the school's computers via a student account, so he changed his friends/foes' wallpapers to funny stuff, such as ridiculously ripped guys in thongs and pro-marijuana pictures. Sometimes he would also get into the teachers' accounts and find/print things such as old copies of completed assignments and answer keys and give them away to the kids who were struggling in class. He got caught after 2 years and was banned from using the school's computers for the remainder of his senior year. There was also a phantom ketchup, mayonnaise, and salter guy. He would put ketchup and mayonnaise on locked classroom doorknobs. When the targeted teacher would open it, they would get a greasy hand, therefore delaying class a few minutes and allowing the people who were late to class to get there without being penalized. We would also find salt on our desks. Just a whole bunch of salt, especially on the teacher's desk, too. It was hilarious. They never found the guy who did these things. Good guy, Salter. Truth is, I was this guy. I used to love pranks because they make people laugh and can turn a crappy school day into a relatively eventful one. But some people also get upset. Teachers, janitors, the overdressed kids who didn't laugh at the salt on their desk, people who didn't think Jerry Springer was hilarious, etc. So I grew up. Sort of. Next story. Slinkies. A less popular girl was playing with one and a preppy kid asked what she was doing. "It's a slinky, wanna see?" The preppy kid looks at her aghast and runs off. Tells the principal, "She's quoting from an ICP song. It says, 'You like slinkies? We got slinkies.' That's the band that tells kids to go shoot up their schools, and I'm afraid she's going to listen to them." After ordering mandatory counseling for the poor girl in question, the school administrator made it fairly clear that if you like slinkies, you got assigned therapy. Next story. My school banned the display of any holiday items from any religion or tradition. It started when a mother brought in a Christmas tree for the school. Then other parents complained. By the time the complaints rolled in, students had done things like make decorations for the tree, so people were personally attached to it. The student tried to make peace by saying any student could bring in symbols from any tradition, religious or not. I believe one of my teachers even set aside a day where students made presentations about their families. I had classmates talk about Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Ramadan, Hindu festivals, and someone even talked about the concept of humanism to bring some non-theistic perspective. It was nice. I learned a lot, and coming from an atheist background, I wasn't offended by the tree then or now. But it wasn't enough to satisfy the offended parties. The fight culminated in a parent walking into a classroom during a school day, grabbing the tree and tossing it into a dumpster. The school vowed no more holiday celebrations of any kind after that. How much of a Scrooge do you have to be to walk into a classroom at a school on a school day and throw a Christmas tree out? There is no way you do that and in your head are still thinking you're the good guy, right? And it's not like the school was being restrictive on what could be celebrated. Crazy. Absolutely nuts. Next story. These shoes that had wax on the bottom in the middle, kind of like an inline skate that have the grind pad, except for shoes. They were crazy popular when I was in like 4th grade, and I kept begging my mom to get me a pair. Finally, after a month, she did. I felt so cool with my shoes and being able to grind on stuff. And the very next day, a huge group of us that all had the shoes were standing out on the playground. This kid decides to grind down a big slide. He does grind down it, but halfway down he bit it and landed face first onto the ground and ended up getting rushed to the hospital with a fractured neck. Shoes got instantly banned. I was always mad at that kid because I never got to enjoy using those shoes at school. They were sick. Next story. Candy and soda was banned at my school as some push towards making kids healthy. You could, of course, bring in candy and soda to school, but they wouldn't sell it. But like the 1920s, this created a black market, and I was the Al Capone of candy. I'd go to BJ's or Costco's and get a fun pack of candy with a mixture of 2 bars and bags of candy. These cost $10-ish. Each candy would cost the buyer $1 or so. At the end of the day, and each day I seemed to be tapped out, I would have doubled my investment. I started with students, but eventually even teachers bought from me. It was fantastic. I did it for my senior year and made upwards of $500. You would think that the place whose job it is to teach you about history and things like prohibition would understand the concepts a little better. But apparently not. Apparently administration skipped that lesson. I can't blame OP for being an enterprising kid. That's some fat profit. It really is. Anyway, that's the last story for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day or a night wherever you are, and I will see you in the next one.